Call the meeting to order at 7:05. Welcome to the Northampton School Board meeting for Thursday, September 20th. We are going to start with the approval of our minutes from August 16th.
I move we approve the minutes from August 16th, both public and non-public.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Second, okay. Any edits, changes, corrections, additions, subtractions? No? Okay, all those in favor? And abstaining, 1%. Thank you very much. All right. On to the business at hand. Correspondence, commendations. Eric, do you have anything?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I'd like, first of all, in terms of commendations, I'd like to commend the following 4 staff members for having been volunteer chaperones for the 6th grade Merrill Vista trip, which I'll be speaking a little bit more about later. Mara DeRocher, our school nurse, 3 educational associates, Kyle DePietro, Paige DePietro, and Joel Hurwitz, along with myself for the 5 chaperones for the trip. So I certainly commend their efforts. We made a great team, and I would be remiss if I did not commend the entire faculty for a very strong and positive start to the school year.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything in that? No? All right. Questions and comments from those in attendance? No takers?
Oh, me, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm reading the agenda on my phone. I'm sorry, do I have to get up or can I just sit here?
I think you can sit right there since we don't have a podium.
Oh, okay, good. So Marsha Roby, I've already identified myself. I have a question. I know that you're in the process of finalizing the budget. And if I recall, when we were talking about the middle school structure this summer, I heard that decisions were already made about this current academic year last September. So I'm curious what the plan is for the middle school teacher grade combining structure for the next school year.
I will start by saying the board hasn't really worked on the budget yet. That will be
Okay.
coming up soon. Administration is working on the budget. They'll pass it on to us. And yes, I'm gonna ask you to. It's come October, so there'll be budget workshops that are public meetings that the board will have once in early October, early to mid-October, once the board starts its work. But in the meantime, I will pass this on to Dr. Lupini.
So, thanks for the question.
Sure.
So we've not started.
Okay.
We'll start very, very soon.
Okay.
We had some preliminary conversations during the summer months, I think right around the forum in July, about really taking a look at numbers of kids in each group, planning that out in terms of the present assumptions of numbers of kids in each class for the next 5 years, and being able to put, I think I said this in July, being able to put that out so the parents see exactly what the model looks like for some prolonged period of time, so that they're not guessing from year to year as to what the configuration is going to look like. We want to put out a configuration that people can count on and they can see what it is, and more importantly for us, teachers can plan for those configurations. So our plan as part of that budget discussion is to really talk about this for a 5-year period.
Okay. Will you be looking to get parent input will you be soliciting parent input?
As part of the initial process that we put together, I'm not sure. Certainly there are lots of opportunities as we go along for that kind of input. I'm always willing to listen as we start that process, but as I said, we'll start out looking at those numbers, looking at some of the guidelines that have been put in place over the previous years in terms of what those numbers are. We know there are some blips in those numbers that we want to account for, and we're planning to make recommendations that will account for those blips.
Okay, great.
Our doors are locked. Oh, I'm sorry.
All right. Anyone else? Anything else, Martha?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate the help and the information.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That'd be great.
Yeah. If you all don't mind, we're just going to move one item on the agenda. We have Jason Saltmarsh here, who we're going to move the Power School item up. because that's been something that we're addressing, and he was kind enough to come to provide some input along with our administrators, so we can just move that up and then we'll get back to the regular order unless anyone has an objection.
I think, Eric, you wanted to say a word, and then Jason will
Yeah.
talk about the support that they've been providing.
Certainly, I think we have the general understanding that our initial implementation of Power School has been challenging. We've had conversations on a number of layers, including with Winnicott, certainly before the fact, but afterwards with the SAU, Dr. Lupini, who was not part of the conversations through last spring and winter. But it's one of those things that if we had to do this again, we always think about, right? So we have several big ticket initiatives or new programs or new aspects of our curriculum, including competencies and quality performance assessments that are being implemented. If we were to do it again, a lesson that I think I've learned, right? One, in terms of leadership and it controls the pace of change, and Power School has been a big change. So as to mobilize our team moving forward. Now we have a phenomenal team, but what I know now that I didn't know in, let's say, March and April, is how many people need to encompass that team and the level of expertise that is required of that team to implement Power School successfully. So I have learned that, and one thing I would do is I would reach out to either elementaries or middle schools or K through 8 regionally who have implemented Power School in the recent past. We were certainly speaking with Winnicott, and they advised us and so on from the high school perspective and an initial implementation of many moons ago now. So we had that perspective, we had that endorsement, and we're very excited about that connection and partnership. But I would have reached out to regional schools who's implemented in the recent past and asked them if you had to do it over it, have you learned anything from your implementation? But it's that being said, we are beginning to really see forward momentum in our implementation and building the layers of the onion and being able to put it into full effect as we had hoped we would have, let's say, 6 weeks ago.
Jason, can I just say before you, I want to say thank you to Jason for the work that he and his team have done in coming and supporting that work. I don't want to jump the gun on something that you might say, but if I had it to do over again, since I wasn't here in the spring, this would have been an SAU-wide effort. We would have implemented as an SAU. I mean, next Tuesday, we're going to have a conversation with our other principals about making sure that we have the plan in place to take the rest of the SAU to Power School next year. Because quite frankly, this idea of one district at a time doesn't work. We didn't build the infrastructure to support it. We didn't build the infrastructure to administer it. And we could have, and we missed an opportunity that really is what SAUs are for, right? I mean, that's what they're for. And we didn't have that, and we're going to take a look at that not only in this area, but a number of other areas. And Jason's been, in fact, I think we have a meeting next week to talk some about the details of what that will look like.
Yeah.
So, Jason, thanks for coming.
Sure. So first I'll just say thank you to all of you, because I'm a Northampton resident and my 2 children went here. They just graduated last year, so feels like home again, coming back, visiting. So from a professional standpoint, I'm the technology director at Winnicott High School. Previous to that, I was the tech director at RSU 21 in Maine, and we use Power School in both places. So I've had about a decade's worth of time working with Power School as the main student information system, and also here in New Hampshire. And one thing I will say is that I came in for a meeting last week, and I was told that things were in a horrendous situation, and there was a lot of concern about emergency notifications and some other hot button items, and it's really not that bad. like really not that bad. Kelly, is it in front of us? Okay, so Kelly's done a pretty tremendous job for somebody that's brand new to Power School. And from what I understand, she's done this mostly on her own. So, you know, I feel for her, and we told her that, and we're like, geez, it's a lot of work for one person. She's like, yeah, it is. And she was stumbling over some of the things that are fairly new. Like, Power School is a very complex system. The advantage is that it's really customizable, and you can build it to serve a lot of different needs. The drawback is it's a really complex system, and if you have never used it before, there's a pretty steep learning curve. So, to Dr. Lupini's point, if we get into things like this and we adopt more of a district-wide view, then we can add more resources and more experience to help things along. So coming in kind of a triage mode, we took a look at what was currently done, and we have many suggestions. Seems to us like the primary goal at this point was to make sure that we could reach out to parents and notify them if there was to be some kind of an emergency situation here on campus at the school. And so we took a look at your Campus Suite product, which I think is your new website, as well as a emergency alert system. And we looked, knowing Power School, we know how data gets exported out of Power School. And the export from Power School doesn't work very well with the import to Campus Suite. And my Power School administrator made a call to Campus Suite directly to talk to their engineers to find out how can we make this work and what needs to be done. And they said, we can't do a whole lot. When we send out a notification, it's to one contact only per child. And so that was kind of a deal breaker in my mind, because all the students have more than one parent or contact listed for them. I'm sure almost all of them do. And everybody wants to be notified. And once you export the data up to Campus Suite, you can't see what's there. So it's very hard to know if you've got a full export and that you've included all your students. And there's really no internal mechanism for testing that communication. So given all that, we suggest that you guys here in Northampton consider using something called School Messenger. School Messenger is a partner with Power School. So there's a module available for purchase. And I think, I mean, don't hold me to this, but I think it was about $2.50 per child or something like that in cost, which is like $8.50 or something like that for the school if you were to, like 341 students, I think. Okay.
Yeah.
So, so that's not really a huge expense when we talk about something as critical as emergency notifications. I think that there may have been a purchase order submitted for that. I'm not sure what the status is. Did you submit a purchase
I
order?
believe it was already submitted.
Okay.
Yes.
So the good news here is, as soon as that goes through, once we have the keys to School Messenger, within 24 hours, you guys should be up, running, and able to send out alerts and contact parents in a number of ways, including text, phone, and email. And that would be for unlimited amount of contacts per child. So if you have, non-traditional families and there's 4 or 5 contacts, not just 2, that's fine. The School Messenger can handle that. We use it at the high school. It's been what we use for weather cancellations. Knock on wood, we haven't had any emergencies. But we found that with Power School, you can also create groups, and then you can send notifications to groups. So if you have, athletic competitions that are canceled and you have a group for the basketball team, you can send out a message and know that you're hitting all the contacts for the basketball team. Or maybe it's bus 9, or maybe it's grade 5, or whatever group it is you're trying to hit. So I think you're in good shape there, and it won't be very long before that's up and running. The other thing we discovered is there needs to be a little work done on the schedule. You have kind of a complex arrangement of days right now, and I think it may be redundant, so we can probably help you with that as well. And beyond that, it's just going to be, if they need us, we'll be there. I would like to see a cooperative district where we work together, but in this sense, I'm still restricted somewhat by the fact that we have a high school to take care of, and you're a separate district with your own school board, and things are not, they're not like they were in Maine, where we had a district with 5 schools and everybody sort of helped each other out. So I think we're headed towards that direction. but I'm personally very happy to help you guys whenever you need anything. And if you have questions, just let me know. Like even tonight, if you have any questions about Power School in general, or advice I might give you at this point, I'll be totally frank with you and tell you exactly what I think. I have nothing to lose because I don't work here.
Well, thank you very much, Jason. If I may add a couple of items. We've also contracted with Winnicott and with Jeremy, that Jason mentioned, the Power School administrator at Winnicott High School, who will be helping us directly with some of those layers and rollouts that still need to be accomplished. And also in the meantime, Campus Suite, the notification site, has a CSV file with that one contact per, so that if we need to send something tomorrow, we can send something out tomorrow. So.
Eric, didn't we pay an incremental amount for that Campus Suite notification system, and shouldn't we ask for a refund?
Yeah.
Yes, they may. I would think that we would get a prorated refund.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree 100%.
I have that question.
I do believe that, we did not get the whole story from that sales
No,
department.
you and I sat in that meeting, and it
Yes,
sounded hunky-dory.
yes, we did. So, thank you.
And so,
As well
thank
as from Power School. I mean, it all
As I
sounded like
recall, they
similar.
both said that they would be able to work with each other seamlessly.
So thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the self-reflection and kind of learning what I do differently. I'm really pleased to hear that, like looking at something at an SAU level, probably some buying leverage there too at some point, right? What I guess I'm curious about is two things. Knowing that we're not going to get to where we want to be until we're all together as an SAU moving forward, beyond simple notifications, which is important, I'm sure that Power School does other stuff. Can you share what other stuff Power School is expected to do this year, even if it's not the full functionality that we're looking at when we go with the SAU? And if you're not prepared tonight, that's fine, but I think it'd be something important for us to talk about.
I'm not able to answer that fully, but I think maybe Ms. Carlson might add to what I'm saying. We do still intend, and we'll have the capability for full functionality with our teachers. Okay, they are at the very beginning of their learning curve. They've each had essentially 2.5 hours of training. Okay, but they need to, on the inside of the box, learn how to use Power School. And we do intend, through the course of this year, to open it up. That is still a goal, remains a goal. I wouldn't hazard a guess as to what that timeline is. Initially we give teachers, the first 6 weeks, 2 months, and then we would open up. That timeline is no longer in effect, but at some point through the course of the year, we hope that. But we should have full Northampton functionality. Again, we are expecting, absolutely expecting, demanding that Power School is working with us, collaborating with us on their end. But all that we had desired for Power School to be able to do for you, us, the community, we still expect that within the course of the year.
So I guess my question is, and again, you might not be able to answer now, but I think we need to share it with the community. What is full functionality? So as a parent, as a school board member, what does that mean? What does it do? And at some point, we need to update about the when, because it's not really fair to say we might get to it by June, right? We need to know what and when at some point. That should be communicated, I think.
Yeah, that was gonna.
Okay, so just to clarify,
We do need a when.
yeah, I'm not quite sure, like, the full understanding and conversations around Power School, but one of the things that makes Power School such a powerful tool for a teacher is that it is a place where a teacher can keep track of the student's progress in learning, when we're ready to open up as a way to communicate with families, and it generates the report card. So the teacher, of course, does have some work to do at the end of the given trimester to review grades, to enter in comments, but it does attendance, it does report card generating, it does a place to keep track of student learning.
Right.
That's our whole student information system.
Yeah, so
So it
it's
has
a way to
alerts on whether photos can be taken,
Bee
legal
stand.
alerts, right,
Yeah.
allergies.
Yep, super powerful tool. I
Very.
think we just need to communicate what parts of that super powerful tool parents should expect and teachers will be expected to be working through, right?
Yeah.
So that we don't end up at the end of the first trimester and we're not putting the report cards for Power School if that's it.
Yeah, it was, I mean, it was very nice that the teachers were able to have the training in our back-to-school time, but they weren't able to get in and play with it. It was a learning about the system, but not very hands-on, because we didn't have it up and running yet, because of this extreme heavy lifting that's associated with getting it started. And so I definitely, feel like we need to have time for the teachers to, when we have it set up and ready to go, for them to get in and to figure it out and to play with it and to learn hands-on and to give them, that time, so.
Definitely.
Yeah.
If people need a chance to use it again, it comes back to you may not be ready to answer this tonight, but I think we need to address those two things.
And the teachers will have another chance to play with it on October 5th. During our early release.
Hear any of my opinions on all that, but I will say that many of the decisions that are necessary to make inside of Power School, things like standards and grading and philosophy of weighted grades and all that kind of stuff, that is a much bigger issue than Power School itself. So oftentimes what we find is, as we dig in and we try to set up a system that reflects the values and philosophy of the school, we've got all these big conversations that are forced, need to be addressed before we can make a system that utilizes that,
right?
So that's one thing that I think sometimes we get stuck with. The other thing is in implementation in other schools in the past, we've usually gone in with a philosophy that for the first half of the year, we're going to let the teachers and administrators get comfortable, make sure that the grading tools work as they expect, kind of keep the doors closed, but keep the operation running. And then by second semester, generally half a year or so, it's time to open the doors. And maybe when you open the doors, the first thing you want to show them is attendance. Or maybe it's attendance and grading, and maybe that's it. And you can slowly reveal and share more if you want to. There's daily announcements. You can have peripheral data systems that are fed from the central database in Power School, which is a great thing. But it's kind of needs to grow organically, and it does force some conversations, which are good conversations to have, I think. But sometimes the tool itself is not the whole.
It's a tool, right?
Sometimes the decisions need to be made to configure it properly. So there is a little bit of a delay sometimes with that.
And in terms of awareness for parents of what they can expect to see, what they can do with it, we'll have opportunities for parents, evening opportunities for them to attend. We can call them trainings, if you will. Okay, so we'll be having that as well.
So I heard a couple things here. So I think Jason's point is really good. I think we need a cadence, like as to the when, we need a cadence of when that when is and what the rollout of it is. And it could be partial, which makes sense. I heard Tom say he understands that until the SAU has rolled all of it out to all the schools, it won't be fully functional. I didn't hear that when I was listening to you talk. What I heard was in the future, we should roll it out as an SAU. So I just want to clarify that this will be fully functional, and we won't, at some point, we won't be waiting for all the other towns in our SAU to get up to speed before we're up to speed. Is that correct?
I think that's correct. I mean, what I'm mainly talking about at this point is making sure that we don't have to build a district by district infrastructure to support it, right? That we build out at the SAU level.
Yes.
Over time. I believe we'll have that functionality this year, and we'll have the opportunity to make those decisions about what we roll out when here this year. That will help us as we bring 3 other districts into it next year on a more SAU level. Yes.
Yeah.
It's a long-winded yes to your question.
Yes.
In terms of if I need to make a personal visit to the Power School offices eventually, I'll do that. I mean, our expectation, we expect that they will work with us actively to help to solve the issues that we are having. And if that doesn't happen to our satisfaction, we'll take whatever means we need, whatever action necessary to make sure that they do.
And they are. I mean, Kelly has trainings with them, it seems like every
It's
day.
a great support structure
Right,
that she's already said.
right. So she has, calls where she's looking at the screen, they're looking at the screen, and they're walking through some of this, so.
Yeah, I don't doubt that all the all that's going on, and there's a lot of good intention around it. I don't like dangling timelines.
But I would,
So give yourself, make it generous, give yourself the time you need to get it done, but I think the community needs to know like what to expect and when to expect it.
but Jason, what I heard you say, which is a really great point, is invariably in these kinds of things, it comes down to sometimes it's not about the management system, it's about your decisions that you make as a system in terms of where you place your priorities, what you do in terms of grading or those kinds of things, and making sure that that system matches up with those priorities.
Right.
And that can take a little time and conversation with staff and those kinds of things.
Just as an example, we had the science department recently debating the weight of a formative assessment versus a summative assessment. And that debate affects Power School because in the Power School grade book, you need to weight your grades accordingly. And we wanted everybody on the same page in the science department, but not everybody had the same opinions. And so that conversation alone took weeks to work out. I know it sounds a little ridiculous if you're outside education, but you know, the wheels turn slowly sometimes. And for good reason. We want to give everybody a chance to share their opinions and make a right choice. But yes, that happens.
So, and that's why I said you may not be able to get all the way there until the SAU. I was leaving space for that. One of the potential pitfalls is that until you get everybody to have consensus, if people feel as though, well, we're not using it because we didn't need to use it because we don't have consensus, it's going to be a very bumpy launch for you. So I think that comes back to what my point about saying specific functionalities and expectations and timelines, and I'll leave it at that. I think you need to manage this tightly.
Agreed.
It can't be delegated.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have a backup plan for report cards if it's not up and running by then?
We're not gonna.
Yeah, I think it's, that's far enough off. That
That's
we'll be
far
fine.
enough off.
Yeah, we don't, I don't think that
That's
needs to be a
necessary.
consideration.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a little cardboard.
It's not
I'm
even-
looking at Jason, yeah. No, it's not gonna be that. I'm looking at Jason shaking his head, no,
When
that's not a
does the
problem.
first trimester end for you guys? When do you start doing that?
November
Yeah.
12th,
Yeah.
and report cards
Okay.
after Thanksgiving.
Okay,
Yeah,
So we do have
That's-
sort of a when,
yeah.
right?
For certain
Yeah,
for
that's
certain
what I'm saying.
functions, yes.
For the-
Yeah, I'm not talking about-
There are parent portal decisions to be made and all those kinds of things, but yes, in terms of that one aspect, yes, we do have a win.
We expect to generate
We expect to generate-
Power School version of report cards at the end of the first trimester, yes.
It's the opening the grade book up to the parents that isn't gonna happen right away, right?
Right.
That's, and in fact, we don't even know if that's developmentally
Well,
appropriate
for middle
for the
school, I
elementary
think there's
school.
some, right, there needs to be more discussion for that.
The grade book is like at the high school level where you can go in and see every test, every quiz, every.
Yeah.
Right.
assignment.
Or
And you can
certain
drill down
parts
to
of
the
that.
assignment,
Yes.
and at this point now, we've had this product for a long time, so you can also drill down to see what standards are being, tested or reinforced through that lesson or whatever it may be. So when the kids get to the high school, you'll be able to see the standards, so you'll see, Algebra 1, here are the 20 standards we want to hit this trimester, and you'll tell if they're proficient, if they're on their way, if they need help, I think there's 4 levels, you probably know better than I do. But that's really powerful stuff, because as administrators, we're able to look in there and see if there's patterns. Is there a pattern by teacher, is there a pattern by grade, is there a pattern by class or sending school? That's good stuff. And I think that's one of the benefits that Dr. Lupini would see as a superintendent if he had a window into all of that activity district-wide.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Anyone else? I just want to thank you very much
Oh, you're
for
welcome.
coming,
Jason.
and thank you very much
Yeah.
for the assistance you've provided. And as frustrating as it is that we have these growing pains, I'm very encouraged that we now have support at multiple levels to make these things work and take a bigger view. That's something that we've asked in past years as a board of the SAU, and it has not been forthcoming, so I'm very pleased to see that change. And as we've experienced sometimes as we try to take on some of these things ourselves as a school, as a small school, we suffer the pain of early adoption in terms of trying to do these things on our own. So, but I'm glad we have made the attempts and pushed forward with these things, because this is, I think, things that we need to be doing as a school and now as an SAU. So I find that encouraging, so.
Well, you're very welcome.
Thanks,
Thank you
Jason.
again.
Thanks.
Don't take offense, but I'm gonna go home now.
Thank you, have a good night.
Nice
All
to
right.
see you.
See you
Take
later.
care.
Hello, Dr. C.
Good evening.
All right, we'll go back to the regular order here. Under education update, we have the school council.
So I attended school council with Becca and Dr. Carteret was also there. So we discussed curriculum night. The staff has decided collectively that October 11th is a better date. Originally, September 25th had been published, but it felt a little bit rushed for the things that we wanted to have ready. So we put out a survey, and October 11th it is. It will run from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock with 2 45-minute sessions. So the administration team will do a little greeting at 4:45, about 10 minutes. First session will run from 5 to 5:45. From 5:45 to 6:15 will be the UA time. 6:15 to 7 will be session 2. So the 2 sessions will be identical. And then from 7 o'clock or 7:05 to 7:15, the administration will do the same thing they did to start. The only caveat to that is grades 7 and 8. So grade 7 will do the first session from 5 to 5:45, and grade 8, then we'll have the second session, so that it's broken up that way. And it will be K through 8. Preschool will have something on a different time. So that was discussed, and it was a collaborative discussion about what would be best in terms of date. Really, that was the discussion. Open Circle, there was just an update about how it's going, how it's being implemented, getting it scheduled in all the classes. We have a 5th grade teacher going for training in October, which will mean that there is a point person for every grade trained. So that's nice. Just me, was it? So there is a plan to have some Open Circle time during a professional development day, but that needs to be finalized. What else was there? We talked about professional development days coming up, sort of the goals of that. Rana spoke to using some of that time with Jonathan Vanderels for competency work. There are some concerns that other work can get done during that, especially with our science committee, because they've done a lot of work and want to make sure that momentum keeps going. So we need to be mindful of that and get our professional development committee back up and running, which incorporates teachers from various grades and various subjects and ourselves to make sure that planning is done collaboratively and hitting everybody's needs. Dr. Carteret talked about this year's evaluation tool for teachers. I don't know if you want to touch on that.
I'll do that later.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
There was a check-in about how the one-to-one initiative is running for grades 6, 7, and 8. 7 and 8, they're up and running, sort of figuring out logistics like getting it charged, carrying it from class to class, along with notebooks and other things. 6th grade, the kids had just gotten back from camp, so still working through that. Again, there was an update on Power School, much what you just heard. We discussed our community meetings, which we started a couple of years ago. So we're going to kick those off in October with our Red Ribbon Week, and our 6th grade team is going to take care of that, and then everybody sort of picked their month for our community meetings.
We'll have one at the end of September that
It's more of a gathering.
administration needs.
And that was it. Did I hit everything? There you go. It was a good meeting. Dana Hanson-Babiak is this year's chair, and she does a really great job of keeping it organized and keeping it moving and keeping us on point and positive. So kudos to her for sure.
In terms of curriculum night, do you think that maybe it's something we should plan in the spring of the previous?
We had that as part of our
Okay.
conversation.
Yep, and to get that on the calendar when it's published,
Yeah, I
yes.
know.
That's
We-
definitely something that we had discussed.
People thought that it's not happening that day, so.
Well, Eric published a letter on the website too that talked about how it's moved.
Yes, we will be sharing out and communicating with everyone.
Yeah.
And the schedule in detail will be part of a flyer and so on. So parents will be getting them.
So to that point, the scheduling, whatever we can do in the spring for the next year, even the back-to-school picnic, there was confusion on this year because it was a different day of the week.
Right.
So whatever we can do would be great.
Okay.
Any other questions about that? No? All right, moving on. Continuing business, we have board goals. I don't have anything particular to address on those tonight. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts or questions or input on that.
Do we get to hear how board goal number 1 is doing? Like what progress we're making?
Yeah, maybe you could give an update about the work with our facilitator?
Absolutely. Dr. Maura Hart was with us just yesterday. She was here for a half day. She attended 3 or 4 grade level meetings with teachers. And so is working through grade level team meeting norms as she is working with subcommittee or task force meeting norms and whole school meeting norms and expectations. We had a climate, culture, and communication task force meeting after school, which ran from 3 to 4:30, and that task force is driving a few of the initiatives that we're working on with Dr. Hart. She will be back on October 17th as the next time she's with us. We have our homework to do. For example, we're working on establishing a more clarity in our general understanding of shared governance, shared decision-making, distributed leadership. Okay, that's one of the elements of the task force's goals. Another element, for example, is the communication aspect is an email protocol. Little things that add up. An email protocol by which if teachers are reaching out to administration or reaching out to each other, we establish an expectation from the sender establishes an expectation, and we as receivers of that adhere to what the sender's expectation was, so that one, there's clear and perhaps more communication happens more quickly, but it's also at the origin of that, if an email is missed or someone is not responded to, that's a miscommunication, and that's something that breeds feelings that we certainly don't want to crop up. So those are just 2 examples of the elements of our work with Maura.
So you took a baseline climate and culture survey, and you were here. How are you going to know this is working? Are you dipping in the middle to take another survey, or are you going to do it at the end when Maura? How do we know what's happening?
That will be, thank you, that will be coming fairly soon. Maura also spent an hour or so with the 3 of us, and we were talking about just that, sort of like a midterm elections, if you will. But she is requesting of the board to participate in that process. With the teachers, administration, we talked through how that would happen. The SAU, she's requesting of the SAU, that the SAU participate in that process. I can't tell you exactly what that will look like, because we are communicating via emails and Google Doc back and forth between now and October 17th. We're going to try to finalize that, mid-month, next month. So, but essentially, we're looking to dipstick, present climate culture, presently how people are feeling like they're being worked with, listened to, present level of trust, present level of willingness to take risks, if you will, or participate, put themselves out there, volunteer their time, so on and so forth. So that may look a number of different ways. Dr. Hart has said you're free to reach out, but if you could give us a few weeks to develop next steps, you'll hear back from me and or us. But we would like to do that certainly before Thanksgiving. Okay, and again, it's a request on her part to have the community, we discussed and didn't achieve any movement on that as just yet. It's a bigger element of this, but we certainly would like the school board, the SAU, NHS administration and staff again to be able to participate in the process.
Well, I think if we get nods all around, this board is certainly happy to participate. So whatever that form that takes, just let us know. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Gas line update. Is that your
I don't have that.
Okay, I can
Thank you.
help with that. It's in. So all of you who saw it. Do we?
It wouldn't take a long shower, but there's hot water.
There is, yes. As of the other day, we were running on the backup hot water system. So the gas line itself did get installed. Despite some delays to get started, Unitil cracked the whip and got the line installed. The boilers are installed, they've been tested. There's a few final items that are being wrapped up, which frankly they are behind schedule on, and they were told that they were behind schedule on in no uncertain terms, and that they did not meet our expectations to have everything done before school started. One of which was getting the hot water fully implemented, so we're running on backup hot water that is not really adequate for the size of the school we have. So Eric, do you know if they made progress on that this week?
I don't know. I saw Mr. Gamache today, but we did not discuss
And I
this.
know we've had people in.
Yes.
I don't know
Okay.
how far
All right.
along
So,
it is.
but they seem to understand at least that these were high priority items that they needed to finish, so.
Along with several safety systems.
Yes,
That were in the contract
yes.
that they had sort of neglected.
Gas detectors and CO detectors, so.
We met with them the day after
Yeah.
Northern Massachusetts blew up.
Yes, so that was not a.
Top of
Yeah.
mind.
So we made it very clear to them that we didn't expect them to be running the equipment without those sensors installed and things, so they are very clear on that. So hopefully that is wrapped up very, very quickly, and they are running up full speed. The kitchen equipment has been converted and is running off the gas. Although there was a delay on one piece of equipment that still needs to be, they have the wrong part for. So there's a few things that they're wrapping up. It's disappointing that they did not get it all done before the school opened, as they were supposed to, but they're working at it.
Is the gas
Yep.
cooking we're using the gas to cook currently?
Yes, the kitchen equipment is converted from propane to natural gas.
Natural gas. But the unit to heat the building, the big.
The boilers are not
It's
running
working
yet. They've
without
tested them, but
all
we're
safety
not
equipment.
running them. And they know that we're not gonna run them until they finish installing and testing all the safety equipment, so.
And the proper safety equipment is in the kitchen.
Yes, yeah.
Good.
Can't turn the heat on until November at my house anyways.
Yep, same.
We'll hope for that. Hopefully that's true for us.
All right, new business. I'm going to kind of cover A and B here together, future meeting location and school recording equipment. So we have had a back and forth with Channel 22. We had a meeting here in July, I want to say it was. As you all know, it's sort of back in the spring, there sort of seemed to be sort of a breakdown in communication in terms of recording and broadcasting meetings. Some of the equipment for live broadcasting was no longer either compatible or here from Channel 22, so they had been recording meetings, and then that stopped for at least a meeting. So there seemed to be some miscommunication about what was needed and what was going on. And so we had a meeting with Channel 22 administration, myself, Matt was there, John Savastano from Channel 22 was there, select board member was there, Larry Miller was there. So our ask of them was, what can you do, what do we need to do to make this happen? You know, we don't know how to set up live broadcasting in the school, so they had a proposal for us for about $22,000 worth of equipment that would be needed to enable live broadcasting from the school. That included the new compatible equipment to go in the room back here, the cameras that they can control remotely. Their ask of us was to make sure we can facilitate the installation, which, on our network, which we would certainly be able to do, and identify someone here who would be the liaison between Channel 22 and the school, maybe that person here who would enable the broadcast back to the remotely back to the studio. If I'm saying something wrong and John Salvestano's watching, I'm sorry, I'm saying it wrong. But they are looking for a liaison here that could work with Channel 22 and sort of be the responsible person in the building for that. And we talked about that, and we don't seem to think we'll have a problem finding someone. Brad Gregg did serve that role before he retired, but I don't think we would have a problem doing that, which we agreed to do. Then it came to the question of paying for the $22,000 worth of equipment, and I looked at, we have a cable TV revolving fund in this town that is funded by franchise fees that go to Channel 22, that go into the fund, and is exclusively reserved for paying for Channel 22 broadcasts. So I sent a letter to the select board, to the chairman of the select board, requesting that the select board, since they are authorized to spend that money, authorize spending that money to provide that equipment. And at that point, things seemed to go a little bit sideways. There was a select board meeting, which I wasn't aware of. They were going to be discussing this, but apparently there was a discussion that changed the thrust of that, where they said, no, let's put just some of that equipment in the school, and it's not going to enable remote broadcasts of school board meetings, and the school board can do their meetings at town hall. So that was the response back we got from them. I sent them another response that said, thank you for that. With all due respect, that's not going to work for us. We meet at the school. We have students who come to meetings to a familiar environment. We have non-public meetings where we have to adjourn to a separate room, which you cannot do in town hall. We're not going to ask people to go stand outside in January while we have a non-public meeting or things like that. We have administrators who are here who may have to go to their offices. So I said that's not going to work. And respectfully, I would think, this is the plan that was presented to us, that what you need is $22,000 worth of equipment. The cable TV fund has almost $300,000 in it. So I really didn't understand why that was a problem. I went to the select board meeting this past Monday, not this past Monday, the Monday before. I just reiterated that. They said they understood. My understanding is they're going to discuss the topic again this coming Monday. My hope is that they will approve the expense for the equipment that they identified as the need for Channel 22, and they can get that installed, and we will be back to being able to do live broadcasts, which I think people in this town, want to see. And it's not just to broadcast our meetings here, it's to enable broadcasts of graduation, school concerts, anything that would be at the school, going up to graduation events that they haul a lot of equipment from town hall over to here. That's not productive and difficult for them to do, a lot of setup time. So we're trying to resolve this. This is a long-winded way of saying that future meeting location, I expect to continue to be here for those reasons that I stated, and that hopefully the select board will approve the expenditure of the funds to provide the equipment that we need to make it all happen.
Call my selectman.
Any questions about that? No. All right, thanks. All right, budget review dates. You have a page in your packet just after the minutes that shows the schedule. Our Northampton is highlighted. The timeline, as we can see, for the school board to receive our budget books is October 10th. And then we would have about 3 weeks to complete that, our work, which means we will need to schedule, we have scheduled 3 workshops typically in the past to have our meetings where we work on the budget, do our page-by-page review of the budget, and work with administration on any changes to what they have brought forth to us. We've typically done 1 or 2 in the morning, 1 or 2 in the evening, depending. So maybe now would be actually a good time for us to have a discussion about picking a couple of dates. At least the first one I would like to leave here with having that down in terms of when we would have our first workshop. We get our books on October 10th, I would expect we'd want some time to review them, so maybe in the following week would be our first workshop, so, and so my question to you is right now, would you want to start with a morning or an evening? And are there any days in that week of October 15th that would not work?
Mondays, we're not great, and then Thursday night, we have our school board meeting, but any other day is fine with me.
You do?
We do.
The 18th?
Oh, yeah.
Tuesday works for me.
Days work better for me. After 3, it turns into just
How about mornings?
mornings. Yeah.
Mornings are good?
Yeah.
Mornings are good, okay.
Daytime. Anything
Afternoons.
after 3 is technically.
So maybe early in the morning on the 17th?
Well, well, we could look at the 16th or the 17th.
16th is bad for me.
17th. And this goes for our administrators as well, so we want to make sure something works for everybody.
We're a captive audience.
Okay.
I prefer to say you.
17th is fine.
I can just throw it out there, anytime between 12 and 2.
You're saying in the morning on the 17th?
Oh, I said
Yeah.
early morning.
I can try it for early morning too, but
I can't.
That work thing gets in the way.
Yeah,
12 and 2?
middle of the day is hard.
17th is hard for me in the morning.
what about you?
6,
And Monday, somebody said Monday's not good for them.
Yeah, Monday was
Tom, did you
not-
say Monday?
I will make Monday work.
Okay, Monday's great for me.
What time
All
Monday?
open.
The morning of
all
the
day.
15th.
Yeah, I can't do that morning, but that doesn't mean others can't.
Could you do midday?
On the 15th, no.
Oh, Monday doesn't work midday.
Well,
No,
middays
the
are,
15th is
middays
not.
not
Be good.
Try for the
ideal.
morning.
I can't say anything.
Did you rule out the 16th in the morning?
I
Maybe
can-
we have something we can move.
I can do the 16th.
I can do the 16th.
I can try and make this, yeah, I mean.
I'd have to do it at like, it's a hard week for me. Can we start at like 8?
that would be my
Or
expectation. that we'd start-
7:30?
Yeah.
Or 7 o'clock?
No, that's what we have done.
Start at
We have
7?
started early.
We've done like 7:30 last.
7 would be great.
Yeah. 7:30 on like a Friday morning would be great.
What is the 7 of which they speak?
Is it? how
All
many
right, so we're
hours
looking
did they
at
set
the
it to?
morning of the 16th?
7 a.m. to 6.
7 a.m.
Well,
Or I can do
I-
evening.
I-
It's- I
2
can do-
hours or 3 hours?
7 a.m. might be,
How long?
well, generally we pencil in 2 hours and then see
7 to 9?
how
Can
much
we
progress.
aim for
At
7:30?
7, could we
Sure.
do a little bit later?
7:30, 9:30?
30?
I'll go as early as you want.
5 a.m.
Does 7:30 work?
You want to go 7:30?
7:30 is fine. 7:30, 9:30.
7:30 to
16th.
9:30 on the 16th?
The location is principal's conference room again, or
Or-
something else? Or TBD?
The SAU, was that helpful for any of you? Because we have a meeting at 10 there.
That's okay. Yeah, I don't care. Fine.
I mean, there's more
Bigger
space.
conference room.
Yeah.
There's more space.
There's more space.
Okay. We'll
SAU then?
do it there, that's great.
Okay.
7:30, 9:30, 16th at the SAU in the basement.
Okay.
Crash is in this.
That's right. Apologize.
Dare I attempt to ask about the, so typically what we've said, Aaron, you haven't gone through this before, but we have a work session where we probably don't get through the whole thing the first time. So 2 work sessions gets us through the whole thing where we provide feedback to the SAU and the administration about any questions or concerns or changes or updates, and then they'll come back to us with that information over the subsequent meetings. So do we want to pencil in the second workshop? Because just keep in mind, our target date to be complete would be the first week of November, the 2nd.
The week of the.
Our commitment to deliver the budget book to the budget committee is November 12th, so.
The next week on the 23rd, we have the joint school board meeting.
Oh,
So
yeah.
maybe we could do it right before that.
Well, I had an idea, if,
I like that.
what about the 18th before the meeting? I know Aaron said it's hard to, Erica,
Yeah, I
So
mean, that would work well.
said it's
for me.
hard evenings, but you already have someone for
We
that
locked
night.
we locked in the last one, we're moving to the next one.
Okay.
Everybody agreed to
Don't-
that.
don't go
Would
back.
that be the second one, though?
No, we're talking
No,
about
no.
the joint board meeting on the
Yeah.
23rd, just starting at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, yes, and we've done that before. We've done it at Winnicott
Yeah.
or the SAU office. So that would be,
That's the October 29th.
yeah.
Volunteer, man.
I know, I have to volunteer to like, so that's
That gets
the
all
coaches.
flabby there,
raise
you
some
go,
kids.
good.
And I, yeah.
So we can move it to that date.
No, that works, that works. I'll make that
5
happen.
o'clock on the 23rd.
Thank you.
Okay.
You can go on with that.
Hey,
Go on, Travis.
Okay.
That's the Winnicott one, right?
That's the joint.
Yes,
board,
that's a
yeah.
joint board.
Okay.
Well,
5 until
then
7?
we'll do 5 o'clock. I'll just make sure I talk to you, Greg, before that and make sure if there's anything you have you want to
And we'll
pass on.
confirm a
we do that.
location. Or would you rather
sounds
just
like-
have it at Winnicott?
SAU,
Yeah,
walk-
yeah.
at
When
the
it's
SAU
done, yeah.
walk
We'll do it at
across.
the-
So both the 16th and the 23rd will be at the SAU.
Yeah, let's do it at the
You
SAU.
said at 5?
Yeah, 5 to 7.
Yeah. Sorry, what day is it? That's the 23rd.
Third, Tuesday.
6:50-ish.
Yeah. So we can get across the street.
You do have to start the meeting.
And let's leave the
Oh,
third
yeah.
one open for now,
Okay.
to see how much progress we make at the first two. I'm sure we'll make tons of progress and feel like we're in great shape. Wishful thinking.
One page at a time.
All right, thank you very much. I know it's hard to find dates that work for everybody, so this is the most challenging time of the year for this stuff, so. Budget review dates. Parent survey results, Cindy, I'll pass this to you, but I know we don't have them to report now. I'm gonna take this opportunity before we even get to the website, is to say thanks Cindy very much for all the time and effort she put in on the website over the summer into the fall. It looks terrific.
Thank you. Well, I am making good progress on the parent survey, and the next step would be for me to set up a meeting with administration and SAU to present the results. I've just got to get through comments and the classroom data, and then I'm done. So I will set that up with you soon, and it'll be
Okay, Cindy.
between now and the next school board meeting, and then the school board meeting will be presented out to public.
Great.
So
Are the parent surveys still available on the website?
I can't remember if we have those on there. I don't think they are, but I'm happy to put them on there and happy to send them to you.
Okay, I just wanted to go back and review one of the.
I'll send you
one of the
last year's.
surveys.
I'll send you last year's.
I'll-
This year's a
I'll
little
look
more
at which one.
complicated. We have staff results, and we did a lot of things by grade level, so it's taking a little of an analysis time. A little preview is there hasn't been a significant move in overall satisfaction. We're still at that 80% level. But there has been some positive movement in some of the functional areas like communication. So, there'll be some good things to look at.
And then, again, on the website, I don't know if you wanted to add anything, Cindy, we did talk about a little bit last meeting, that it was up and it was coming, it's here. Again, I think it looks terrific. Just from my perspective as a parent, the fact that I can easily find all the forms and
The quick links.
the
Everybody
links,
likes the quick
but
links.
just,
And what's for lunch?
Everybody
what's for
likes
lunch,
the quick links.
it is a breath of fresh air in terms of navigation and accessibility for information.
And we haven't
So
had
I
too
think
many-
I think it's great because that is still a primary means of communication for folks.
We've made some minor revisions to it to make it better, and now we're just working on making sure that the content is updated and refreshed on an ongoing basis. Eric is putting his notes on there. The news articles are being refreshed. There was something about soccer, which was really good. And the teachers, we'll get the teachers into their own pages and Yeah,
And we'll get our new library media specialist in there, her feature.
Yeah.
Will be coming up.
And then from a maintenance standpoint, is it internal when we need to make an adjustment to it, or
yeah,
it's all internal?
yeah. It's been handed over.
In other words, when I log in, I have immediate editing privileges, if you will.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the editing tools show up on my screen and it's.
And it will go
the
live
same-
right away.
The same for everyone.
As soon as you publish it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And we can provide access in whatever way, shape, or form that we want to provide access to someone to access kind of to the whole thing or to limited
Right.
parts of the thing. We can provide
Different
the
levels of
appropriate level of
administration.
administration
Yeah.
to different users so that they can edit their own
So that Paul Fields
domain.
can put the lunch menu up, then John Gamache puts his facilities reports on, and they all have access to
And
that.
what
level
about
of
additional
information.
functionality if we wanted to add a new function to it? Is that done internally, or did we hire?
Like what kind of function? It depends, I guess.
Like a new formatted page that.
We can do that.
We did that internally.
Yeah, we can do that internally. There's all these widgets that you can pull in and put on your pages. It's pretty simple.
It's very user-friendly content management system,
Yeah.
so it's.
Aside from their connection to
You
Power
don't have-
School, it's been
yeah.
a success.
Yes.
Speaking like, on the bottom of the SAU, the Twitter feed goes through, they have tweeted a lot in the past, that might be another way to present, to show that they are advocate for the Twitter feed. You know, on the SAU page at the bottom of it, it
Oh,
constantly
it's
goes,
so that
it links.
you have scrolling tweets. We have the Twitter, the little bird, so
We
you
do.
can,
You can follow
I ended
that.
up on there the other day by accident.
yeah. No, it's available, it's just not going across it.
Oh, they're on the website.
We do it that quickly, though.
Twitter's so
Twitter, and I'm just like,
That's this year.
I need to get that.
I didn't know that.
Moving on.
And I will also give them that feedback about Power School, because I think that's important to them, because as Eric said, the way that they presented it to us is it was seamless, it was going to
Oh,
work.
yeah, we had that, when we had that, that was part of our conversation, was that it was, they were supposed to work together.
That's one of the reasons,
Yeah, and that was part of the decision-making. Great, well, switching to Power School, we have this website, we want
Yeah.
to make sure they work together.
So I'm going to connect with Matt, because Matt was in on that, ground level too, and we'll talk about getting a reimbursement for the notification system.
Yes,
Great.
Absolutely.
Matt has been in all of the
Yeah, he's
recent
been in.
meetings.
Yeah.
So,
There's a lot of people copied on those emails, just to make Kelly crazy.
We have the superintendent's report.
Thank you. You have a copy of the report. We met earlier this morning about the Operations Committee agenda and the Joint Board agenda. I think we have a meaty agenda, a lengthy agenda, but lots of important things, including obviously the SAU budget, some preliminary information from my entry plan in terms of some preliminary findings, the long-term competency-based plan, some discussions we've been having with the School Boards Association about board trainings and a policy development proposal to sort of better work with all of our boards on policy work. So it's a lengthy agenda, but we need your participation because it's an important set of items. I'll leave the new teacher, and because I know you do those in your report, but just suffice to say that we had a really successful opening in terms of new teacher orientation and our opening day. I've given you a list of teachers that we recognized as part of that program, who we recognized for 25, 30, 35, and 40 years of service to public education. We had a great opening day with freshmen at the high school and all of our students then on August 28th. And as I said here, the weather was not terribly cooperative in terms of the heat, but I want to thank people for getting through those days and making them productive. I've given you a little detail on the leadership team retreat. I want to sort of highlight 2 or 3 items here because they've been in play since and really are the last 2 items in the report. I spent a lot of time this summer on educator evaluation and principal evaluation. A lot of time reviewing the 5-year plan, which is in its last year for educator evaluation, and what the actual implementation of that plan looked like. And I want to say that it was spotty at best across the SAU. Lots of reasons for that, but what it said in that plan is not what we were doing. And so in an effort to really make sure that we were providing teachers with feedback, we boiled it down. And I gave you a copy of the memo that we sent out to teachers, which I think has been pretty well received at the beginning of the year, saying this is our pledge to you of what we will do for this year, while we begin process of developing a new 5-year plan. But we want to make that commitment to you that this is what will happen in every building throughout the SAU. I made the same pledge to principals, gave you a copy of what I'm actually doing with them, that if I was going to expect that they evaluate people, then I really need to evaluate them, don't I? And so that they would receive that kind of attention and feedback and support for their work, and where they work with other administrators in the building, that model or some close derivation of that model is what I was looking for from them in terms of the people who work with them. And we've had a good start to that process with principals, with their initial individuals, to discuss goals for the year and how we'll go about looking at those goals. They've done a self-assessment. I've given you the form that they used for that process, and we're well underway. We will start in the next few months to tackle that next 5-year plan. We are looking for board members who might be interested in serving as part of that team to help put together that plan. So if you're interested, we'd love to talk with you about doing that. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on that or any other part of the report.
I was very encouraged to read all this. I think it's an
Yeah.
excellent
Thank you.
progress on something that's been sorely needed. And I just think when teachers are doing well, they should be hearing it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah.
Thanks.
Dr. Anderson, have you been receiving back any goals yet from teachers? Have they
No, not as of yet.
not?
So one thing that happened is that because we use Frontline, here we go with another technology conversation, right? We use Frontline for that particular process. Used to be called Oasis.
It was called My Learning Plan.
My Learning Plan,
For the
and called
PD
lots
side
of
and
things.
Oasis for the evaluation side.
So Karen Schweitzer at the high school has done a lot of work with that, maintaining it over the years. And one of the things that she showed me this summer is, unfortunately, she took me into the back room of Frontline and showed me what a mess it was. She, Jason, Dr. Cataret, other people have been involved in cleaning that up and getting it ready for principals so that they could do their work with teachers. They did that. They were amazing in how quickly they actually put that together. And so we've just gotten to the point where we're ready for principals to be able to start doing that work with teachers.
Oh, gosh.
Like literally redid the whole internal program of it.
So
It's so clean.
it's all like, it's all tech.
It is, the expression I keep using is we've skinnied down this process.
Okay.
So that it's easy, it's understandable, there are few forms to use, there are very clear expectations for minimums, and everyone knows where the forms are and what they say and what they look like and how we use them.
And they're loaded for each teacher.
And are the observations loaded into this system
All
as
there,
well?
all ready to go.
Okay. And the teachers have access to then see?
They do, they actually get feedback, so when a principal goes in, or someone goes in, does an observation, they complete that form, they finish that form, it goes to the teacher. The teacher has a chance to review that. We've changed part of the process, because we listened to some people who said part of this was a little mixed up.
Yep.
And then there's a conversation between the evaluator and the teacher required as part of that process. That was another part people reported to us wasn't always happening. There's a required conversation, and then the principal can go in and finalize the form. There's a space there for teachers to make comments as to their experience of that observation and that feedback, and then the form becomes finalized as one of the observations.
And included as part of the personnel.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say. That's
Well, the summative, is
Okay.
actually the summative that's completed at the end becomes part of the personnel file. Yes.
so funny. I mean, 10 years ago as a teacher, everything was handwritten. You're getting a handwritten note in an envelope and
Yeah.
be back and forth. And
And what's the frequency? Is this a yearly thing, every 3 years?
I'm sorry, is what?
The frequency of these evaluations is a yearly?
It's a yearly process right now. What we may, it depends on how we build it, but for this year, We've built in observations and a summative for everyone. There are plans that have a summative every X number of years. For this year, we've taken the yearly approach to observations and a summative.
Because they hadn't happened, we needed to get everyone on the same page.
Thank you for saying that. Kept me from having to say it.
Start this year.
Yes.
Is the expectation that it'll happen again next year, and then the year after that, and it'll be a yearly?
The expectation is that we will build a system. The expectation is that we will build an evaluation system that we will implement and that I will hold people accountable for.
It's due, it's up at June 2019, so we're starting in October the process of writing what our next 5-year plan
Right.
will look like.
My guess it will be similar to, at least as a baseline to start that conversation, it will look like this.
Any other questions for superintendent? All right, assistants.
Thank you.
Assistant superintendent.
So it's going to kind of go out of order. But I won't, it's spin off that. So I'll start with welcome of the new teachers. Thank you for those of you that were able to come to the new teacher orientation at the high school. Some of our trainings and the kickoff, breakfast, that was really well received. If you look at the teachers that were there, we have a different makeup, or Dr. Lupini's report too, we have a different makeup of teachers this year. Last year for the induction program, prior to a week or so before school began, there'd been another administrator, one of the principals had been in charge of the induction program, and Dr. Sullivan asked me to take it on, and I realized that we had several new people last year, and some of them were elementary, K-8s, and some of them were high school. So the needs of the teachers that last year were more unique. So we brought on a second facilitator, so we had 2 groups, a larger elementary group and then a high school group, because the times didn't correspond with one another. The high school teachers had to stay longer, and the topics were different based on who the staff we had and what the needs were. So we had 2 different facilitators last year, and many thanks to Whitney Forbes and Gabs Borden from the high school. And this year, Gabs chose to be a mentor, and Whitney has 2 babies now. So one of the mentors from last year, Lisa Harris, has taken over that position, and along with the administrator is Cindy Fagan from Seabrook. So they're working together with me, and we were able to do a training for mentors on that day as well. I worked this summer on a job description for mentors and the expectations for mentors and mentees in this program based off a New Hampshire State, what we call like a toolkit for the program. And a unique thing that we did this year that was kind of exciting and helpful as we're trying to help individual districts see the connection to SAU 21 and appreciate the different schools and come together as schools. We did a magical mystery tour on a school bus with Nancy Tuttle actually leading that, and her great experience. She did not drive it, but leading that. And her great experience and all the stories that she had to tell. And the bus driver had actually driven the bus for this area, SAU 21, for 35 years. So between the 2 of them, it was really neat. And I was able to find out, as I've been telling you, that there actually are falls in Hampton Falls, and I know where they are, and different unique stories about each of the towns. So I think that was really helpful for people to appreciate the different schools and where one another were coming from, and to help build that idea of collaboration. So that was a highlight of that. Can see who our mentors are from each of the schools this year. And in conjunction with that, we have, I want to say that I have 5 different people doing alt certification plans that I'm also working to support them to write their plans for the state. So they're kind of part of new teacher and mentoring, separate mentors. So then we had, Dr. Lupini has talked a lot about our administrative retreat. That was very successful for the 2nd year in a row. We've been able to have it off-site and some rich conversations looking at our practice. So the main portion that I was responsible for besides the bonding and of our administrative team and playing silly games was the portion that we did on what our focus is for competency and our professional development this year, along with John Vanderels. I had mentioned a little bit last month that we took a team to 2 revolutions and did a Seacoast cohort with approximately 20 of us. Administrators from every building attended. Tracy was able to come for Northampton with teacher rep, and we talked about what our focus would be, along with, in conjunction with John Vanderels, and we are focusing on quality performance assessments, and that means looking at, last year we adopted our competencies and our, as they connected to the standards, have those documents ready, those links have been available, and we're looking at how we decided that we need them presented in a common way. So as we gather this data and house it electronically, what are they going to look like? So in understanding by design, it would be called stage 2. So we have what we're teaching. Now we're going to work on how do we know that we're teaching it? How do we know our kids are doing well? And how does that then inform our instruction? How do we change what we're doing in the classroom so that kids can do well if they don't do well on assessments? So it's called stage 2. And we're making these performance assessments that some of them might be traditional pen and paper. Some of them could be more demonstrations of skills. We see a lot of that in science classes. I know particularly here at this school with Project Lead the Way, we do see a lot more of that. So we need to we have projects, some spots of excellence throughout the SAU, particularly with the high school doing performance assessments. So a lot of the high school teachers are going to be our curriculum leaders this year. And I'm going to talk more about that next month, what we're looking like for our teaming. But the plan is that by the end of this year, we should have approximately 45 performance assessments throughout the SAU, one for each grade level at each school, or middle school to high school, each content area. The high school will have 4 per content area, and getting solid on what quality performance assessments are, which will then drive our instruction. We've talked a lot about, particularly with this board, what does that mean for individualization and personalization? Well, when you get the results back, you think you've made a great assessment and the kids don't do well, or do really well. What do you do for those kids that did really well? How do you enrich it for them? The ones that didn't do as well, that forces us to look at our instruction and change a lot of the formative and the practice work that we do. And this demonstration of skills is different than a lot of the assessments that we've all had, or I traditionally had, or even gave for 21 years as a teacher at times. So they're exciting times. I meet with John regularly. I've been to his meetings with almost all the administrators except for here because you have Becca. So when he presents to the staffs, I have also gone to most of those presentations with all the schools, and really John is also individualizing just like we want to do for our kids. We have done a couple different surveys, and we did another survey at the admin retreat. Eric was one of the very first ones to turn it in for the school, and to give John another, yes you did, to get some more baseline data to individualize what the schools need and what the teachers need, so it's pretty exciting. Everyone has now met with John, made up their schedule, and I also produced quite the document that shows all the faculty meetings or curriculum times after school for all the schools, where they line up, where the faculty meetings line up, where the early release time lines up, and some of them aren't called faculty meetings, it might be curriculum day, like whatever day of the week it is, what they have scheduled for that day with faculty. And we're marking when John's going to be at each of the schools, so we can send reps and get more time with John than what we do have now. So every school has a half day every other month. That gives us more time because you can go to the other schools when they're having theirs, or do joint ones and call them together. So that's been really exciting. I think Hampton Falls is looking to do some here along with Southampton, or people being at Hampton Falls. So John's in the works on that. We've been coordinating that, and then looking at, pretty sure we're changing our vertical teams. We have leadership on Tuesday to look at that, but listening to what administration wants, we had a really rich conversation at our last leadership, like why are we doing the curriculum teams, vertical teams the way we've always done them, going back reflecting on that, and looking that in the budget, how might we use that money that's set aside to pay teachers to stay 2 hours after school to then work within our schools and use that to have more time with John. And then when we need the vertical team time, more of a horizontal team. So we're looking at what are all 4th grades doing, what are all 3rd grades doing, what are all 6th grade doing across the districts to get them prepared for Winnicott and have common experiences. And then being able to share those, the potential 45 quality performance assessments that we develop with one another, working towards, in the next 2 to 3 years, having common assessments that are given across the 4th grades and across the 5th grades, across the 6th grades and subject areas for the SAU. So pretty exciting work. John is really energized. The teachers seem engaged. And I think John's coming here on your next early release day in 2 sessions. Maura Hart will be 1 session with half the staff. The other half will be with John, and then flipping halfway through the afternoon.
Any questions?
So
for
really exciting
Dr.
times.
Federer?
Oh,
Thank you.
I forgot, there's a couple other things in here.
Okay.
But you want to read the rest of it? I'm excited about that part. You can see there's a lot of pictures of Dr. Lupini and I have been out in the schools quite a bit. I know you guys enjoy the pictures, seeing the kids engaged, so I try to collect those and been doing a lot of tweeting. So I'll continue to do that for you. Oh, and I would tell you my last part, the audience that's listening. At the open houses, I have promoted that if you want to know when the late openings are or the snow days, follow the SAU Twitter because I'm usually the second person to know and I tweet that right away. So if you follow that, you'll know sooner. And that's helped to increase our following.
Thank you.
I bet it has. Yeah.
Administrative reports. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So thank you for being patient with us this week. We were making the attempt, although we weren't close to each other digitally, to have this in on time, but we weren't able to be successful. So thank you for being patient with that. There's a written summary, essentially much of which you have heard about and or received previously. I will be discussing Miro Vista here shortly. I just want to give a brief report on that. 8th grade trip, the 8th grade field trip 2 weeks ago. I just want to give a shout out to Mr. Rob Southworth for hosting our 8th grade and 8th graders and teachers. They've come back and they were excited to have heard the history of both the Fuller Gardens and the fish house and the fish industry. Becca's going to speak about her work shortly. We've heard about Power School. We've heard about our website. Our one-to-one has been launched successfully. And we have heard about curriculum night. Yeah, no, well, I mean, it's, that's okay. That works very much. If you have any questions about the one-to-one program or Open Circle at this point, I'd certainly welcome them. As you heard, the one-to-one program has been implemented. 6th grade essentially had a week delay, if you will, although the week before Miro Vista, Dr. Lupini and I were both in the classroom, Brenda Tharp's classroom, as the MacBook Airs were being issued, and they're issued individually. So they each have their own specific MacBook Air to the 6th graders, and that was quite a.
It was warm.
Well, you have that very picture is in your report, Dr. Cadret.
The day that you handed them out?
You were there too. I'm sorry. I should have mentioned you because yes, one of the photos in Dr. Cadret's report, the bottom one next to respectfully submitted, that is in Brenda Tharp's classroom on the very at the event that I just.
I missed the computer part.
This is it. Yeah.
I think Greg has a question.
Yes, sir.
I do have a question on Open Circle. So you've noted here that you've implemented the Open Circle program in K-5, led by Guidance Counselor Deb Beth-Summers. What does that look like in the school? Is it like a once a week thing, or is it a section of each learning block, or how does that manifest itself?
It can look different. But you would, it's a spiral curriculum. There's a K core set of materials and so on and so forth. You would see a teacher and or Ms. Vass delivering and working with the students to deliver a 15-minute lesson. That could be accomplished during morning meeting. It could be,
Morning meeting is kind of a hallmark of the
Yeah,
program.
yeah, that's,
It's where it eases most easily into the
Right.
schedule of the day for most classrooms.
so that's where you'll see it most readily.
Usually twice, I think most grades are trying to do it twice a week. We've also talked about if there's new languages or new words being introduced or phrases, common phrases that we really want to promote, to put those on morning announcements. So that, Vass and I have talked about that. So different ways to weave it through the day for the students.
And teachers are putting things on walls. There are posters that come with it that teachers are really good at being good about having on walls and referencing during the day
That's
as
good.
appropriate.
And so how we're,
I'm assuming it stops, that process stops at like 6, 7, and 8, is
Yes.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
it does,
Yeah.
it does.
So how does that happen in 6, 7, 8?
We're looking at that, so.
Yeah,
we're-
Open Circle goes to 5th
Stops
grade.
at 5.
That's,
sorry.
yeah, no, that's fine. That's what Open Circle is intended
Yeah,
for.
yeah,
So it
okay.
really is that elementary model.
Sorry about
And
that.
they have, just as Responsive Classroom does, they have a middle level model. I think we did those in a district I was in, and we had less success with some of the implementation of that. That we needed to do some more, bring some more additional resources to it. That may or may not be where they end up, but it is available, and it's run differently. It looks differently. Because your goal is classroom teachers. I mean, I know you mentioned
Direct.
right, and your
Direct
goal
implementation.
is every classroom, because the hallmark of these kind of programs is a common language, right, throughout the school, and that's achieved by all classrooms, K-5, and that's the goal to get there.
And we got buy-in and consensus throughout the staff that we need to do this consistently. We need to have a measure of success, and there are expected outcomes that we can measure through the Open Circle curriculum, which we'll be doing, and that, so the attributes and the success skills and then the habits of mind for our students are consistently developed as we move through 5th grade into the community and team building and collaboration that we're expecting.
And there will be discussion with the middle school, and that actually already started in terms of what that might look like. So, and a consistent thread, whether that is through an advisory, then that would need to be consistent throughout the middle school. So we've allowed ourselves this year to really discuss that with middle school as Open Circle's rolling out and what makes sense, for that. But certainly our middle school grades are, 6th grade, for example, has town meetings, is that what you call it, Trish, on Fridays. So getting everybody together to talk about issues or celebrations. And the 7th and 8th grade teams do that as well. So, but we've allowed ourselves this year to sort of talk about what do we want that middle school model to look like for our SEL programming.
Yeah, and as Tracy says, we've allowed ourselves that this year, it's an element in our school improvement plan.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah, I'd like to go back to the one-to-one program. We're investing quite a bit of money into the one-to-one program. And is that being measured or evaluated in terms of the value that those computers bring? I mean, I think we all intuitively believe that it's great that a kid has his own computer to work on, but are the lessons changing in the classrooms, the curriculum changing? How does it adopting those computers? And are our kids being more successful because they have those computers in their hands?
Too early, but we intend to document and report out on all of those deltas, those before and afters. Yes, in detail.
Yeah, particularly at the middle school level where we have the one-to-one, the personalized learning can be really powerful with that ability. And so, of course, we would need to have professional development around that as
That's what I
well.
was gonna say,
But work, certainly we will be doing moving forward.
Okay, so you're looking into programs that'll, okay, great.
I'm glad to hear about the professional development around it, because just because a new tool lands doesn't mean everyone's going to use it in the
And
same
that's
way.
what I
I don't know that I would know
Right.
what, I mean, it's a
Right.
Mac, I definitely know I don't know how to use it.
Right.
Yes, that's interesting. I mentioned Chromebooks just the other day in passing when we were discussing the library learning commons, and I got a little remedial lesson regarding Chromebooks and compatibility. So, So I would like to present on Mira Vista at this point. But actually, I'd like to hear from Ms. Carlson first.
Oh,
Would that be
okay.
all right
No,
with
of
you?
course, yes. I'll jump in front of you. So first of all, this is my first opportunity to be in front of all of you and just to say thank you for approving my hire. I really appreciate it. I know this is very important work moving forward, and I really appreciate that you have entrusted it to me to be part of the leadership for the school and doing this work with the teachers and the community. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. What Dr. Anderson asked me to do today was just to give a little bit of an understanding of how we envision my work with the faculty this year. Certainly the position had a job description, but it is of course a new position, and we wanted to provide a little focus for the work this year, to be able to speak to that focus with the faculty, with the community, just to kind of be guiding things for us as we figure out how to use my time and my energies. And so after wonderful conversations, I started the 1st of July, a bit during the summer, and so a lot of teachers were kind enough to come in and sit down with me during that time. I was able to actually visit with a lot of stakeholders over the course of the first 2 months in the position, so that really helped to inform all of our conversations as we figured out how we should use this position for this school year. So Dr. Anderson asked me to come up with basically a big 3. And so this is what we showed out with the faculty, and we're continuing to, this will evolve as the year goes on and we discover maybe needing to expand or change them. But initially, not in any particular order, is to create a plan for articulating our curriculum and to facilitate that journey with our teachers. The SIT plan does speak to this specifically for science, continuing the work that was done last year in articulating units for science K through 8. So we will be doing that work this year. This aligns very nicely with the work that we're doing at the SAU. Certainly quality performance assessments is part of the curriculum work. So that ties in nicely with the efforts that we have across the SAU. So really around the curriculum and articulating that curriculum. Linked to that is the second of the big 3. We're working at team levels to promote consistency of practice and curriculum by supporting collaborative unit planning with teachers. We're very fortunate in Northampton to have common planning times for teams. And I've really enjoyed meeting with teachers during that time already this year. It's been a wonderful way to get to know them and to talk about our plans and our goals for this year. And so we'll be using this time to have conversations around topics such as content and skills to be covered, the timelines for a given unit, consistent tools we want to use in our instruction, promotion of specific habits or practices, and really assessment strategies, things like that. So having the opportunity to facilitate those conversations in team to promote consistency and identification of what we as a team consider important for our students. And then the last of the big 3 would be providing differentiated support for teachers. Very difficult for me to speak to that because the whole point is that it would be differentiated for the teachers' needs. We have master teachers at Northampton School. You cannot attend a school board meeting and have a conversation with a community member without hearing about how amazing the faculty at Northampton School is. It is a collection of lifelong learners. It's been really wonderful to be working with them thus far. So it's really a matter of figuring out whether it's individual teachers and a challenge they've given themselves or something we're doing as a school that they need support with that challenge, areas for growth that they would like for small teams, for individual teachers, working with the professional development committee to identify ways that as a whole school or large group that I might be able to support teachers. So there are certainly other threads that fill up our time as well, but all of it really does connect back to these. Even this week I've been obsessed with budgets. Every time I see a teacher I'm like, wait, and I'll ask them something about their needs for next year. But of course that is in support of our learning for our students, and pretty much most everything that I've been doing we can tie into those big 3. So that's our vision of this role and my work in the building for this year, but we expect it's going to constantly evolve. And I might have a slightly different big 3 for next year. So we'll see.
Well, just to thank you, Ms. Carlson. On that note, you reminded me of something. So at at our September staff meeting, a staff member asked, should we be including Becca with on emails that we would normally send to you and Tracy, or should we just make sure that it's about curriculum assessment and instruction before we include it? And my response was, well, curriculum assessment and instruction is essentially all about teaching and learning, which is what we're all about, so go ahead and include Becca on anything that you would otherwise send to Tracy and I. So, and so Becca's being incorporated fully in the flow of the administrative team. Another example is we'll make sure that Becca gets a copy of the board packet next month.
We share it.
I'll reach
Sorry,
out.
it's good for paper.
No, I'll reach out on that. But so it's been a privilege to work with Becca thus far, and I'm very excited about the year.
It's great.
Any questions for Becca?
Welcome aboard, thank you for accepting the offer.
Please feel free as I set up.
And so competency-based learning is something that we've been hearing. Competency-based learning and teaching is something we've been hearing an awful lot about lately. So in those big three, which parts can you incorporate?
Actually,
encompass?
it's all of it. So the curriculum work that we have to do, articulating the curriculum and certainly having the competencies be at the heart of that. It really is a shift for us from standards-based grading and reporting and planning and instruction to competency. So that is, again, where part of the support work will come into play. In my last school, we were about 4 years into this process. And so it is a long process. It has a lot of moving pieces, and I definitely agree with what Ron said about the quality performance assessments are a great driver for us to recognize and to act upon where those shifts need to happen. So that will certainly happen during our conversations as teams with that teamwork that we'll be doing to promote the consistency and agreement on what we want for our students at a grade level moving forward. And then, of course, some teachers will need more support. So really, the shift to competency-based education in the state at SAU 21 and here at Northampton is part of it, the heart of this work significantly.
And most of our conversations.
Yes. We've had a conversation.
Is that where we're located?
Wow.
Not that rugged and tough to borrow.
Any other questions for Becca right now before Eric?
Will you be part of the regular school board circuit every
I
week?
will
Every
come whenever it is
Thursday?
appropriate or wanted for me to be here. I'm happy to be here.
I don't know that it's an expectation that Becca will be here
Yeah,
every month,
okay.
but
Whenever I'm needed. I'm happy to be here. Or just.
draw strong.
I'm going to ask Becca and Tracy to see if they can't find out the view function, the connectivity, as I pass out just
Too
a
bad that Jason.
brief 3-page.
Might be beyond my skill set.
Oh, Marsh would have been a good person to be here for this.
Do it.
My mistake. Should have had it connected beforehand.
Play screen cartridge.
You're welcome. You've seen these before.
There we go.
Beauty.
Sir.
Thank you so much. So what was my pressing?
I just needed to mirror the display, not use it as a second display.
You can teach me later. Thank you. Thank you, sir. All right, so Mira Vista went with 43 of the 46 sixth graders the week of September 10th through 14th. A little bit about the program. You'll see on the green sheet that this was our schedule. Excuse my scratch note because it's my only copy. So we arrive mid-morning. We have essentially an induction and orientation. And we start the 6 activity blocks, which are really class sessions, which is the meat and potatoes of the program. So you have 6 environmental education and/or team community building sessions or classes through the course of the week. Okay, so that's we'll call it 15 hours of direct instruction from the Miro Vista naturalists. All right, and you see some of my notes in terms of covering free time. There were evening activities. Skit Down was in the 4 learning groups, the 4 activity groups. They would, with their Miro Vista naturalists, they would plan a presentation. They had 15 or 20 minutes to do it, and then they'd present. And there was a second round as well. A night hike where it's sensory deprivation as well. So, I mean, there are groups from, right, literally the big city that go up there, and it's quite really even more of an eye-opening experience. For our students, I hope that they've seen a star-filled sky before, but it still has that effect, and there are no flashlights and wandering around in the dark and having fun with that, but it's also an eye-opening awakening, if you will. There's an all-day day hike. You'll see some slides on that. You'll see some slides on the activity blocks. There's an egg drop, similar to egg drops that have been done at any school USA, but within that context, it's kind of cool and a cool evening. You'll see a slide on the waterfront. Everybody was able to go for a swim if they so desired. And one of the most affecting, where the intent of the trip came together, or where I saw it come together for the students, is called Council. That's a tradition, since American Youth Foundation in Mira Vista was founded in the 1920s. So Council is that time of community reflection. We had individual students report on sort of their view on how the week helped build respect, responsibility, trust, and community, which are kind of the 4 pillars, the four intended takeaways for our students through the course of the week. Okay, so you have the schedule on the back. Again, you see my block capital writing. So the classes that we would cover through the course of the week with the Miro Vista naturalists, just a cover page, a little bit more about AYF and Miro Vista, and a map. Okay, I'd just like to show a little presentation, just some photos. Thank you, James. I'll talk through them to some extent. So here's our 2 photos of an activity block. This is called the Raft Building Challenge. So the students are, blindfolded for half the way there, and then they trade. So again, they're blindfolded for either the first half or the second half of the walk down there. Again, a trust building and community building part of it. And half of them are blindfolded as they attempt to build the bridge between the 2 canoes, which will make the raft. And again, they trade blindfolds. And the trick is that they have to communicate with their partners in a constructive, productive way that helps the raft get built. Okay? And that is an interesting process to see 6th graders engage in. Another ecosystem class, part of the introduction, and these are all our students. You may recognize some of them. And this is Ben the Beaver, again, part of one of the classes, the culminating part of one of the class is we're talking about adaptations. The students were learning about adaptations. That's Asia from Texas, one of the naturalists in the background. Right, and Ben is our student who got to dress up as a beaver, talking about adaptations. We see the group I was with on the day hike. A bunch of kids having a grand old time on top of Mount Flag. That would have been on the Wednesday. A few more. So these are 2 different things. So the group on the right is encouraging another group to finish the climb. All right, another one was doing something silly. I can't remember exactly. But having a good time. And so this is back down after the day hike. We're in the, at the waterfront there. And this is just one view. I took a bunch that I don't want to share all of them. I think every one of the kids got in at least to their ankles, so enjoyed the water a little bit. Some were much more thankful to have the water. And we had a great time. And the kids, of course, beforehand, the safety procedures, you see a lifeguard there, another naturalist there. There are other all-camp activities, which were all learning opportunities. On the left is predator versus prey. Okay, so it looks like the prey is running from predators. I'm not sure if those were frogs or what prey they were, but predators could have been, raptors or some other such predator. So on the upper right, that's the egg drop intro. And again, in the learning groups, the activity blocks, the kids broke up and tried to build their machine successfully. We only had one group get past round one, unfortunately. Just a couple of other pictures. So transition times, and especially before meal time, different students would take turns ringing the bell. One of our sixth graders is there ringing the bell. The dining hall, it's interesting. I'm, as some of you know, I'm a 13 summer veteran of summer camps, but I had forgotten how much time we spent in the dining hall. At Miro Vista, it's called the Eating Lodge. You have different photos of kids performing, and singing and having a phenomenal time. On the far left of the lower left is another one of the naturalists, Ella, who was also fantastic. 4 of our girls having some fun during free time. And there was tetherball, basketball, soccer, kickball, gaga, which was the most popular choice. And as part of the budgeting process, you'll see in the building and grounds, you'll see a new gaga pit in there for next year, the 1920 budget. NHQ, New Hampshire Qualities, so Northampton Qualities, it applies to both, but Northampton Qualities, so you heard me mention responsibility, respect, trust, and community. So at not every meal, but most meals, once the week got going, our students would trade. There was an initial recipient from the Miro Vista Naturalists who was exemplifying the Northampton qualities most visibly or demonstrably. And then after that, the students did that presentation and exchange themselves. Okay, so helping to build that community spirit. And last but not least, believe it or not, all 43 are in there, although some are not hanging it up for the camera. That's another shot from the top of Mount Flag on Wednesday. So thank you for that. I will shut the projector off. And probably, thank you. And ask if there are any questions or comments?
So we had a lot of discussion on field trips and staff accompanying field trips, and this is one of our field trips this year without the grade level teachers accompanying it. Would you recommend doing this again next year? And how was it? Would you say that it was successful and didn't suffer in terms of educational?
This year, I would say that it's successful, but I would not recommend doing this trip without our teachers. But there are other things that we can do. Absolutely, and I believe that very strongly. I know, I've been on all 3 trips now, And I have a summer camp and an outdoor education background. And these are cool opportunities. This was, the kids loved it. I'm sure they'll rave about it. But it is different. It is different. And so, since it would be different, and is different without the teachers, we should do other things that the teachers are working hand in hand with the students to do and accomplish. That would be my takeaway and recommendation.
Tom, did you have a question?
Yeah, so a couple of questions. So 43 of the 46 students went, when we were talking about this in the past, one of the things we said we could improve upon is attending to the needs of the students that stayed back better. So can you share a little bit about what those 3 students and maybe the teachers did while the rest of the class was away? To start,
Yes.
and I got a couple other questions.
Yeah. The 3 students and their teachers engaged in a number of day trips. They went to the Seacoast Science Center. They went to Camp Lincoln, among other things. What were so many other things?
That's cool.
They did a beach cleanup. They, gosh, I'm trying
We
to...
walked to the public library, we worked with Blue Ocean Society. We did a day at Camp Lincoln, or half day, it was about 5 hours at Camp Lincoln.
Really
We
helped with
could-
some things around the building, too.
We tried to do
That's
some
cool.
parallel, like,
Yeah.
activities, and we did, for the problem solving and community building, we did an escape room in Portsmouth.
That's right. I forgot.
And what was great was, one of the students didn't feel very comfortable. It's amazing, but it was a very confined space, and so he and I were sitting out, and they opened it for us. Said, come into the inner sanctum and see, and we could watch the team
Oh, wow.
and hear them. And he did actually go in and help sort of in the 11th hour save the day, and we made it with 58 seconds to spare. And so they were pretty fired up, and I think they felt really connected with their teachers. But when the kids came back Monday, Mara Vista isn't a part of what got brought, what was back, because we were very aware of different experiences for different children. So the ones who stayed, I would say, had a great experience. We walked to the library, we went out to lunch one day, we got bulbs to plant around the school. Home Depot gave us a discount.
And the day trips,
Yeah.
So the Camp Lincoln, Seacoast Science Center, what was it again?
Escape room.
Escape room, which I didn't know about. I didn't know before we left.
Well, we were gonna do a whale, or no,
Oh, we
they were
were?
going to do a
Right,
whale watch,
yeah.
but the weather didn't agree, so. came up with
So I mean,
escape
those are the sorts of things that we would intend to incorporate and implement in a over the course of, if not, 6th grade, but through the course of middle school.
Camp
It's a big
Lincoln is
improvement
amazing.
from in the past.
Oh,
What
yeah.
happened to the students that didn't go. So that's cool to see. And thank you, Tricia, glad you're here to share that.
Yeah, and that team did, they did a nice job planning and keeping us in the loop, and also being aware that if we needed some help subbing. But I felt like we worked pretty closely to make sure that those needs were met, but also we could still honor the fact that we wanted this cohort to be a cohort, right? And so.
So the second thing is, we're still committed this year, I think, if I recall correctly, to the 7th and 8th grade field trips as well, or is that not the case?
Well, the survey will be going out to 7th and 8th grade parents. What is your commitment to sending your child with a combination of school personnel and primarily parent chaperones?
So when's that going to happen? Because I think the fundraising is typically started by now.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so if we wait too long, it's not going to be a choice even if they want it to be, right?
Yeah, by mid-November, we'll know what every family's commitment is, how many students we're talking about, make the associated plans and move forward.
Is that too late?
No, not for planning for the DC trip and New York, no.
So when do the fundraisers typically happen? I think Mr. Karen's usually involved with kind of spearheading those. I know the teachers do a lot of work as well, but if you don't know until Thanksgiving, do you have enough time to do the fundraisers?
I don't know to what extent Mr. Karen's involved in spearheading them, but he and I are having a follow-up discussion to his involvement in the planning of the spring trips. So,
Is there a threshold of participation versus non-participation?
That's a good question.
that is a good question. Yeah, certainly, if we don't have more than 2/3, I think that would be a reasonable threshold. Committing to go.
Do we have any faculty volunteers at this point besides you for 7th and 8th grade trips?
Well, no, I am not a faculty volunteer for the spring trips this year.
Okay.
Did it last year.
Yeah, I did both trips last year. I did Mira Vista. I've now been on all 3 trips. I can inform the experience for kids, and it's an amazing experience for kids. You can't replicate some of the trips, but I will say one thing I am admiring in the wake of the Mira Vista trip is we do this amazing trip at the beginning of their 6th grade year, and then at the end of 7th and 8th grade year, our students become tourists. Okay, so I am very much a proponent of experiential learning and getting out in this great big world of ours and making learning stickier for our kids. That I do believe very strongly that we can do this very well in other ways. So that's what we'll continue to develop. When I had a parent meeting last May 31st, I think it was, and I floated the idea of for example, along the lines of New York City and DC, I floated the idea of a culminating end of year 8th grade combination trip. And I was somewhat surprised at the reception to that idea. There were some questions about capacity and endurance. I wouldn't put anything past 8th graders. So if we were to reestablish teacher buy-in, that would be a recommendation moving forward, but without our teachers for any of the 3 trips, the curriculum connection does dissipate. The experience, no, but the correct connection with the curriculum and what the teachers are doing with the kids and vice versa does dissipate.
So when the survey goes out in November or whenever about when we have interest in that trip, will we know at that point if there are any teachers involved at that point? When that survey goes out to the parents, will we know if any teachers have committed at that point?
I am not.
But I'm saying
One thing I'm going to try to avoid is, for example, as you recall, I did last year survey the teachers and staff.
Yep.
We had 9 staff members who were committed, who would go on a trip. However, I am resolved to avoid having a 2nd grade teacher go on an 8th grade trip or a kindergarten teacher go on a 7th grade trip. Okay? That does not make sense. So concerning how many staff members we have, that eliminates a few. All right? And I've also told the 3 EAs who went on the Mira Vista trip that they're no longer eligible to go. They've done their duty, if you will, between last year and this year. They're done. So I will say that we do have, Ms. Carlson has volunteered to go on one or the other. I don't know if you have a preference. But Beyond
I love
that-
travel with students. I'm chaperoning.
Yeah, oh,
Yeah,
it's-
so.
It's fun, but challenging. So beyond that, at this meeting, I can't speak to our commitment from our faculty.
So if it happened, it would happen with what type of chaperones? And parents, is that what you're?
We would have one person who would be the designated trip leader,
Yeah.
someone like Becca Carlson, or of similar experience and capability, and parent chaperones.
So with that on parent chaperones, at least the question of how many parent chaperones do we have signed up for this year? Because there's a new process. Do we have any?
Yeah, we
did, we had quite a list.
we still have that, and not necessarily counting on the commitment from all those
No,
people.
I'm not
but-
talking about the meeting, when people signed up. I'm talking about in order to actually go, when there is a trip, even if it's a day trip, there's a new process that goes through the SAU, right?
Oh,
Background check.
yeah.
So have we had people able to sign up for that number? And,
Yeah.
I mean, how many, and do we know how many we have? I mean, is it a,
The last list I looked at was approximately 30.
people who are fingerprinted?
Yes,
It's
Right, good.
very
Yes.
busy.
That's great.
yes. So, and that's 2 weeks old.
Good.
So
And kindergartners probably need to be, families need to be updated on that if they, right?
you're very right. And
Any new parent to the school.
they do not know what the process is.
You'll be apple picking before you know it.
You're right. You're right.
So is it safe to say for the budget you're working on for 2019-20, you guys are taking all of that into account as we plan for the future?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Eric? Okay. Anything else, Eric?
No, thank you very
All
much.
right, thank you. Next item, financial report. Matt is not here. He has a brief memo in his packet, and the manifest is there. I'll just note from his memo that, one, the audit process is underway, and two, the squeaking under the bar, fully funding our sped and building expendable trusts out of our undesignated, unreserved fund balance with $512 to spare. So, are there any questions about the manifest that we can pass on to that, or?
So
you know, it's-
when I was going through this, and James, you might have just answered the question, as I was going through this, there were two checks, one for $175,000, and then and it's building maintenance expendable trust fund that I didn't see any documentation on, and then one for $77.50, much less concerning. So, does this reflect that, or?
I don't know.
All right, so
I couldn't answer that, so we'll follow up with Matt as to what that corresponds to. Because I'm not sure, those two numbers we talked about were from closing out the last fiscal year, and I'm not sure whether those pertain to this fiscal year.
Gotcha. I'm just.
Sometimes we're making payments for the last fiscal year, this time of year, because we're closing the books, and so, but we'll figure that out. So, any other specific questions about Matt's report? All right, we'll move on. The Budget Committee met this week, actually, and I told everyone what I think about the economy. The real meetings get underway in a couple of weeks, as we do. We're actually doing the town budget first, so it gives us a little more time. And then we'll get into the school budget as well, and update you on that as it goes. Facilities, John's facilities report is in your packet. Big highlight for the facilities was the gas line update that we talked about earlier. And Paula's nutrition report is in here as well, so any questions on either of those? All right, town CIP wrapped up for the year. No objections or concerns with any of the school requests. They're in the recommendation from the CIP that will go to the select board and the budget committee for their review, but was actually relatively smooth and painless this year, so that's always good. And as far as Winnicott goes, you do have the principal's report in your packet regarding Winnicott. Don't know if there's anything else regarding Winnicott to add. We don't have any personnel matters. We do have policies. We have second reading approval. We have 3 policies that we first discussed last month. Sorry, let's get to them here, make sure all right, so we have GBAA, GBCD, and GBEAA. The first one being a sexual harassment policy regarding employees and staff, which was lacking.
And I'm sorry, I know,
Yeah.
I was in error last month. We had one district, actually, one or two districts, I believe, where we did not actually have this policy on the books at all. This is an update to
Okay.
comply with current law.
Okay.
I move we approve policy GBAA, sexual harassment for employees and staff.
Do we have a second?
A second?
Okay, any questions or concerns or?
I have one
Yes.
question reading through this. Typically investigations or sometimes they're often done with two people investigating as opposed to one person investigating, conducting the investigation, so that you have
Balance.
balance. Two people reporting out, different personalities, different questions asked, and it tends to be more thorough. Is that something that we might want to consider?
I don't think there's anything in the policy that would prevent us from doing that. That's not been my experience in school districts, but I'd want to hear more. I'm interested in hearing more about the advantages of doing that. But this policy wouldn't prevent us from doing that.
Okay. All right, so then I'm happy to approve this, and I can write you a note on
Great.
what I know about that.
Yeah, that's great, thanks.
Karen, do you have a question?
I just, underneath investigation and recommendation, when we talk about,
I'm sorry, which section are you on?
For investigation and recommendation?
yeah, section
Okay.
4 of
Okay.
the sex harassment. It says the students who are interviewed may have parents or other representatives. I think it would probably be a good idea to make sure they
Yeah.
always have a parent,
I
not just
agree.
may have a parent, like, not to talk to them without a parent present.
Which paragraph is
I'm
that?
sorry, which,
No, I'm just asking, which paragraph?
Page 3 of 5,
I'm in the section, which paragraph?
the third paragraph
Thank you.
down. Students who are interviewed may have a parent or other representative present.
Yeah.
Just thinking
Where
that it would
am
be
I? Sorry.
important that.
It's the last sentence in that third paragraph.
I mean, our
oh,
practice
the
would
fourth
absolutely
paragraph
be
on the
to
page,
make
okay,
that
I get it.
their option, yes.
Yes. Well, yeah, okay, I just would think it would be more of not even an option, just to
Well,
make it-
I mean, I don't mean an option for us, I mean an option for them.
Yeah. Okay.
We can't mandate that they have a parent present.
Okay,
We can mandate that we ask.
Okay, but you can't
But then we
say
give the
that
parent
we
the
won't talk
option.
to them without a parent
I
present?
wouldn't do that.
Okay,
I wouldn't do that. That might be the only way to get some certain information that we need would be to conduct an interview. If a parent says, I'm not gonna participate, I wouldn't want us held up by the fact that parent chose not to participate.
okay.
But we would certainly offer, in any case.
There's times too that I've seen where students don't want to talk about it in front of their parents initially.
Okay.
Reporting.
Right.
So we don't have to have parents present, and in my experience is more middle school, high school levels, certainly not with younger kids. But when we have those reports, they are, they're hesitant or embarrassed to speak about it in front of their parents.
Is it the student's choice then? So a second grade student?
No,
No, not
Working with older kids.
Okay.
So maybe.
That's why the word may works there.
It
Okay.
works sort of, I think, to Erin's point. I think if we put something in there that says parents will be informed should students be talked to. I mean, I would want to know if you were taking my child into an investigation and speaking with them.
In the actual
Yes.
bullying harassment report form, it has a section, the actual documents that we use, it has a section where parents are notified. And you put the date and the method of notification.
Should it not be in our policy? Wouldn't
What's the harm of putting it in, right?
Yeah, I know, so as a parent, I would, if my daughter was someone told me that she was involved in questioning for some sort of sexual harassment, I'd be like,
yeah.
What would you want to say here?
Something along the lines of, parents or guardians will be notified if a student or if their student is involved in an investigation.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's good. Thank you.
Do we have a second to approve as amended? All right, any other discussion? All those in favor? Okay. Next, we have the GBCD, which is the background investigation and criminal records check. Again, this is an update to a 2006 policy. I'm assuming this documents our obligations under the current state law
Yes,
for doing
and
these background checks.
includes volunteers, yes.
I move that we approve GBCD.
Second.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? No? All those in favor? Okay, thank you. And finally, we have GBEAA, confidential student information.
Is missing 2 words in the second sentence. It should say it is the policy of the district. In that second sentence in the first paragraph in intent. Sorry about that.
Good catch.
Thank you.
I move we approve GBEAA, confidential student information.
With the amendment.
As amended.
I
Second?
second.
All right, any other questions, concerns? No? All those in favor? Okay, thank you. Yes,
I just have a question on GBAA.
yes.
What exactly is the amendment? Are you
Oh, I'm
removing
sorry.
A?
For the purpose of the minutes,
I got it.
Bill reported the sentence, I'm going to ask
I
you to
got it.
read it back to you.
I will, I'm happy to do that. It is, within that third paragraph,
Yes.
parents, guardians will be notified if their child is involved in an investigation.
Okay.
Prior. Should it say something about prior to the investigation? Prior to involving their student in an investigation. Right, because you don't want
Do
to
we
post
wanna-
notification.
Okay, so we're going to have to go back here and, so, sorry, we need to be clear on what language we want that to say. so.
And I, yeah, since we're going to do that, thank you. I don't know what involved means. Does involved mean to be questioned?
To be questioned.
Okay, thank you.
So, I'm going to ask you, though, do you have something written there that reflects the prior to and question concepts?
Let me see. Notified if their child is to be questioned. How about this? Parents, guardians will be notified prior to their child being questioned in an investigation.
That's exactly what I wrote.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
then-
Do we have to read just
Again,
on that?
yes, please
Do you
do.
have that
Tom, will you
now?
move
I'm
that as
sorry.
amended?
Do you have that?
I move that we approve.
Did you get that?
No, just repeat it one more time.
I will- I'm happy-
Parents, guardians will be notified if prior, there you go.
Thank you, Rana.
You're
Oh,
welcome.
All right, Tom, you're going to move that again as amended?
Sure, I move that we approve GBAA as amended.
I second.
All right,
GB.
all those in favor? All right, thank you.
Very fair.
Yes. Our next, our next meeting is actually on the 16th for budget workshop session, as we discussed, and then our next regular meeting is Thursday, October 18th. And we are going to move into a non-public, discuss something.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, good night.
I move that we move into non-public under RSA 91-A, colon 3, Roman numeral 2, letter C.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call vote, James.
Cindy.
Greg.
Erin.
Tom?
Okay, thank you very much. We will recess, or, yes, we can do it.